The grand assembly of civilizations floated in orbit above a blue giant star. The chamber was massive, a ring of glowing light filled with alien voices, laughter and arrogance. Every seat was occupied by a different species, some covered in armor, others with shimmering scales or cold metal bodies. They had come together to discuss peace, trade and power, and at the center, surrounded by them all, sat a small group of humans. The human delegation looked calm. Their leader, Ambassador Marcus Hale, stood tall in his simple grey uniform. No golden badges, no armor, no threats, only calm eyes and a voice that carried reason. He spoke of peace, unity, and helping the weaker worlds that suffered under war and famine. His tone was respectful, but firm. He reminded them how humans had sent aid ships to alien planets destroyed by war, how they had healed wounded soldiers from both sides, how they had built hospitals where others built weapons. But his words were met with laughter. A massive alien, the Vraxis warlord Kor Thul, slammed his clawed hand on the table, shaking the chamber. "Humans!" he growled, his voice dripping with mockery. "Always speaking of peace. You are the soft ones, the weak ones. You heal enemies while stronger species take what they want." The room echoed with cruel laughter. The representatives of other empires nodded, sneering. Another voice joined, the Draven Chancellor, his face like a spider's mask. "We saw your ships at Arden Station. Pathetic things. You still use steel armor when others use living bioships. And yet you call yourselves defenders of peace?" Marcus did not answer their insults. He only adjusted his collar, then spoke quietly. "Kindness is not weakness, Chancellor. We build hospitals not because we cannot build weapons, but because we choose not to." The laughter grew louder. From the stands, a dozen alien delegates clapped mockingly. "Kindness will not save you when the stars burn." One shouted. "Then let them burn," Marcus said softly. "You will find that humans can burn brighter." The assembly ignored him. They moved on to other matters, trade routes, border claims, and wars that humans refused to join. To them, humanity was nothing more than a small, sentimental species from a distant spiral arm. A species that preached peace in a galaxy ruled by strength, but far beyond the chamber, hidden beyond the reach of alien sensors. Earth's deep space observers watched everything, every word, every laugh, every insult. In a quiet control room beneath the surface of Lunar Base, a young officer watched the live feed. The alien laughter echoed through her speakers, and her hand trembled over the console. She whispered, "They're laughing at us again." An older voice replied, calm and steady. "Let them laugh," said Director Isaac Ward, head of Terran Defense Command. His eyes were fixed on a dark monitor, showing a classified network, thousands of locked signals, all marked Standby Protocol Silent Dawn. He sighed. "They've forgotten what humans are capable of when kindness runs out." Meanwhile, on the alien homeworld of Vraxis, soldiers marched through the cities, shouting victory songs. They boasted that one day they would conquer the gentle earthlings and make them serve as healers for their troops. Statues of their warlords were built, showing them crushing human figures beneath their claws. Children of Vraxis were taught that humans were a peaceful mistake of nature. The race that should never have reached the two stars. But not all aliens agreed. In a small corner of the assembly hall, an old alien historian named Tor Valen watched the humans leave. He had studied ancient human history, the wars of Earth, the rise and fall of nations, the long struggle for survival on a dangerous world. He remembered the old Earth records that said, "Do not mistake patience for weakness." As the humans walked past him, he shivered. "They are patient," he whispered to himself. "That is what makes them dangerous." Back on Earth, night fell across the continents. From space, the planet looked calm. Oceans glowed under moonlight. Cities sparkled like stars. But beneath the peace, there were places even the Council didn't know about, deep underground. Hidden beneath Antarctica's ice, a voice spoke over a secure channel. "Command, "Surveillance confirms hostile remarks from the Vraxis Dominion," said an officer. "Do we respond?" A pause. Then the answer came. "Negative. Maintain silence." The screen flickered. Lines of coded data appeared, unreadable to anyone outside the Terran defense network. In the shadows, far beyond Pluto, something stirred, massive structures, silent, hidden within the dark dust of the Kuiper Belt, began to awaken. Red lights glowed faintly on black hulls buried in the ice. They had no names, no records in public archives, only one word engraved on each hull: unity. The galaxy laughed at human kindness. They mocked mercy and peace, but the humans knew something the others did not, that every kind hand can also make a fist. And when that day comes, the skies themselves would turn black with the wings of Terran warships. For now, Earth remained silent. But silence is never empty. It is the sound before the storm. The night sky above Earth was calm. Stars shimmered quietly, unaware that something dark was coming. At Arden Station, a small human colony orbiting near the border of Vraxis space, everything seemed peaceful. Families lived inside glass domes. Children laughed as they floated in zero-gravity parks. And the station's defense ships, tiny and outdated, patrolled slowly around the rim. But peace is always the silence before the storm. At 0300 hours, the sensors caught movement. Dozens of unknown ships exited hyperspace, their energy signatures cold and sharp. The crew of Arden Station stared in shock. "Identify those vessels," the captain ordered. The officer swallowed hard. "Sir, they're Vraxis raiders." Within seconds, the alien ships opened fire. Blinding plasma bolts ripped through the darkness, tearing human ships apart. The station's shields lit up, trembling under the impact. Panic filled the halls. Alarms screamed. Parents rushed to hide their children. Medical teams tried to help the wounded, but there were too many. The communication officer shouted, "Emergency broadcast to the Galactic Council. Priority 1 distress." The message was sent across the stars, desperate, filled with static and screams, but no one answered. The Vraxis ships circled like predators. Their commander appeared on the main screen, a giant figure with burning yellow eyes. "The weak do not belong in our space," he said, smiling. "Your kindness will be your grave." The transmission cut. Moments later, the bombardment began. The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. Every alien world saw it. Some laughed. Some turned away, but none helped. On the Galactic Council's main channel, alien diplomats debated coldly, pretending to care. The Vraxis Dominion called it a military misunderstanding. Others said humanity had provoked the attack by settling too close to Vraxis territory, and while the galaxy argued, 40,000 humans died in silence. On Earth, the transmission reached the Terran Defense Command. In the war room, a huge screen replayed the attack. No one spoke. No one cried. They just watched. Admiral Kira Holt, the youngest officer ever to command Earth's orbital defense fleet, stood at the center of the room. Her fists were clenched so tight her knuckles turned white. She whispered, "We helped them. We healed their wounded during the Great Plague. And this is how they repay us?" Beside her, Director Isaac Ward slowly turned toward her. His voice was quiet. "They think kindness is weakness." He pressed a code into the console. A red light flashed on the screen. Class Omega Protocol active. The room fell silent. No one had seen that code used in generations. It was forbidden, sealed by the Earth Council long ago. A young officer hesitated. "Sir, that's the old Fleet Command code," Ward nodded. "It's time they remembered who we are." Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, a shadow moved. Something old and massive drifted through the dark clouds of the Kuiper Belt. It had been there for decades, hidden under layers of ice and silence. Now, as the code signal reached it, faint blue lights came alive across its hull. The first ship to awaken was TDS Vengeance, then TDS Horizon, then TDS Hammer of Dawn. Each was miles long. Their hulls were black as night, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Their weapons were quiet now, but their power cores began to hum like the heartbeats of giants. Inside the main command bridge of Vengeance, systems rebooted one by one. A voice spoke softly through the static. Signal received. Silent Dawn protocol engaged. Preparing for reactivation, the fleet's AI, dormant for 50 years, came back online. One by one, thousands of warships hidden in deep space woke up, their engines glowing like small suns. Back on Earth, Admiral Holt watched as the signal map lit up, red dots appearing all across the outer system. She smiled for the first time that day. They wanted to see our strength, she said. Now they will, Ward nodded. Transmit message to all Terran stations. Island operations only. No public broadcasts. The galaxy must not know. Not yet. Understood, the comm officer replied. The order went out. A whisper carried across the void. And everywhere it reached, ancient bunkers, orbital hangars, and deep space foundries began to power up. On the Galactic Council world, alien leaders laughed as they watched the human broadcasts go silent. Maybe they finally accepted defeat, one said. But far from their knowledge, humanity was already preparing for war. Factories under the oceans began to produce new weapons. Lunar shipyards opened hidden sections never seen by the public. On Mars, engineers reactivated old war drones buried in the red sands. And in orbit above Earth, the Terran Fleet Command Tower sent one final encrypted message to the entire human network. Kindness ends here. Activate the fleet. Deep in space, as the human warships rose from the shadows, their engines lit up the blackness like dawn, breaking over a dead world. The stars themselves seemed to tremble. Humanity had been mocked, ignored, and attacked. Now they would remind the galaxy why Earth was called the Cradle of Warriors. The secret signal had been sent. The silence of mercy had ended. And far across the galaxy, the skies would soon begin to darken. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like wildfire. Merchant ships whispered of strange movements near the dark edge of the solar system. Pirate captains swore they had seen giant shadows passing through nebulae without lights or signals. At first, no one believed it. Humans were too kind, they said, or too peaceful. They couldn't possibly hide warships capable of such power. But then, the proof arrived in a hidden alien listening post near Jupiter's orbit. A group of Draven intelligence officers stared at their sensors. The readings were impossible. Are these real? One asked. The commander frowned. The readings are solid. Over 300 massive energy signatures moving in formation. All of them human. Impossible, another hissed. Humans don't have that many capital ships. Their fleet was destroyed decades ago. The commander zoomed in on the holographic display. Massive outlines appeared. Ship after ship, moving in perfect silence. Each one was larger than any known alien dreadnought. Each one carried no transponder, no flag, only a dark hull that absorbed all light. At the center of the formation was the TDS Vengeance, leading the fleet toward the edge of Terran space. The commander whispered, "By the stars." The rumors were true. They built an entire armada in secret. The news reached the Galactic Council within hours. The Great Hall erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted, argued, and demanded proof. The Vraxis warlord Korthul slammed his claws onto the table. Lies. Humans do not have such power. Their fleets are scrap, and their technology is primitive. A quiet alien technician played the intercepted transmission on the central screen. It showed a blurred video, enormous black ships moving past a frozen moon, their thrusters glowing blue. The sound was faint but clear, a human voice, calm and cold. "This is the Terran War Fleet. The age of silence is over." The chamber fell silent. Even the arrogant warlords felt a chill. The Draven Chancellor hissed nervously. "If this is true, then humanity has hidden an armada larger than the Vraxis Dominion itself. How did they do it? We've been watching them for years." No one had an answer, because no one ever expected the kind ones to prepare for war. On Earth's moon, Admiral Kira Holt stood in the command deck of the Terran Fleet Operations Center. The giant display before her showed hundreds of red lights, each one a warship now fully active. "Fleet status report," she ordered. 312 ships online, the officer replied. "All weapon systems charged. Phase shield reactors at full capacity. Command AIs synced and awaiting orders. Holt stared at the display in silence. For years, humanity had kept the fleet secret, built in deep space yards, hidden inside asteroid belts, powered by fusion cores that left no trace. It had taken generations of silent effort and sacrifice. Every scientist, every engineer, every pilot had sworn an oath. We build peace with open hands, but we guard it with iron. And now that iron was awake. Meanwhile, in alien space, panic spread among the military networks. The Vraxis Dominion scrambled its fleets, sending thousands of ships toward the human border. Destroy them before they gather, barked the Vraxis warlord. But the enemy was already too late. When their scouts arrived, they found only empty space. And then a shadow that blocked out the light of the nearest star. The Terran fleet had already arrived. Their hulls were covered in matte black armor, invisible to scanners. Their cannons glowed faint blue, like lightning trapped inside crystal barrels. And their engines hummed softly, vibrating through the void like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. No transmission came. No threat, no boast. Just silence. Cold, absolute silence. Back at the Galactic Council, fear turned into disbelief. The delegates demanded answers from the humans. Ambassador Marcus Hale appeared once again, calm as ever. He looked tired, but his eyes burned with quiet resolve. The attack on Arden Station killed 40,000 of our people, he said slowly. We asked for help. You ignored us. We asked for peace. You mocked us. Now humanity will no longer ask. The Draven Chancellor hissed, Are you declaring war on the galaxy? Hale shook his head. No, we are declaring the end of mercy. Far out in deep space, the Terran fleet began to move in perfect formation. The lead ship, TDS Vengeance, activated its main cannons. Hundreds of beams of light flared into the void. Cutting through the darkness like dawn, alien ships tried to scan them. Their sensors broke instantly. Systems overloading from the unknown energy signatures. To them, it was like staring into the face of something ancient and powerful, something that should not exist. And that's why they called it the fleet that shouldn't exist. On Earth, as the first reports came in, millions of people gathered to watch the night sky. They couldn't see the ships, but they could feel something, a quiet pride, a shared pulse of strength. After centuries of being called weak and soft, humanity finally showed its true face. Not cruel, not vengeful, but unstoppable. The galaxy had laughed at their kindness. Now they would learn what humans built in the dark, ships made not for conquest, but for judgment. And as those ships advanced through the stars, one message pulsed through every Terran channel. For every kindness repaid with blood, the skies will answer. The Vraxis Dominion prepared for war. Across their worlds, giant war factories roared to life. The skies filled with carriers, destroyers, and fighters. Tens of thousands of ships moving toward the human border. The alien generals laughed with confidence. To them, humanity's hidden fleet was just a bluff. They believed no kind species could ever win a real war. But they were wrong. Terribly wrong. At the edge of Vraxis space, the first human ships arrived. The Terran War Fleet emerged from hyperspace in complete silence. There was no fanfare, no warning, not even a transmission. One moment the stars were clear. The next, they vanished behind black hulls, miles long. The aliens on the front line stared in horror. Their sensors failed immediately. Their navigation systems went blind, multiple objects detected. A Vraxis officer shouted, Thousands of them! No identification, no wait, those are human ships. The commander froze. Impossible. He looked out from his ship's observation window and saw nothing but darkness. The light of the nearest sun was gone, swallowed by a wall of colossal vessels. The Terran Armada had arrived. At the center of the fleet, Admiral Kira Holt stood on the bridge of the TDS Vengeance. Her face was calm, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the enemy formation ahead. Status? She asked. All ships in position, her officer replied. Enemy fleet outnumbers us 5-1. Holt gave a thin smile. Then it's a fair fight, she raised her hand. Activate blackout mode. No communication. No warnings. Let the silence speak. As her order went through, the human ships powered up their weapon systems. The hulls shimmered faintly with blue light as shield layers formed. Massive cannons turned slowly toward the alien armada. In the Vraxis fleet, panic spread. What are they doing? Why are they not responding? No answer. Only the hum of human engines echoing through the void. Then, a single human transmission broke the silence. It was only 5 words. For Arden Station. For Earth. And then the stars burned. The first volley from the Terran fleet lit up space like a newborn sun. Hundreds of plasma lances tore through the void, moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Shields shattered. Entire cruisers exploded instantly. The Vraxis counterattacked, but their weapons barely scratched the human armor. Their missiles vanished before impact, destroyed by automated point defense systems that fired with deadly precision. Within minutes, chaos filled the alien ranks. Their formations broke. Ships collided. Commanders screamed for retreat, but hyperspace drives failed under Terran jamming fields, and still, the human ships advanced, slow, silent, unstoppable. From orbit, the surface of a Vraxis colony watched the battle unfold. At first they saw light, bright flashes across the sky like a storm of stars. Then came the darkness. The Terran fleet entered the planet's orbit, covering the entire horizon. Their black hulls reflected no sunlight, turning day into night. The people of Vraxis looked up, terrified. Children cried. Soldiers dropped their weapons, unable to breathe under the pressure of what they were seeing. The skies had turned dark. Human warships blocked out the sun. Inside the command bridge of TDS Vengeance, Admiral Holt watched the alien distress calls flood in. Her communications officer turned to her. "Admiral, the enemy is requesting surrender. They are transmitting a message. We did not know humans had this power." "Please, mercy." Holt's expression didn't change. "Record my message," she said quietly. The officer nodded. Her voice carried through every channel in the system. "You laughed when we offered peace. You ignored our cries for help. You called us weak for showing kindness. Now you will remember what mercy costs." She raised her hand. "Fire!" The second barrage hit harder than the first. Vraxis ships were torn apart like paper. Cities on the surface trembled as debris rained down from the sky, but the human fleet didn't target civilians. They aimed only at military facilities and command centers. Every strike was precise, every explosion controlled. The message was clear. Humanity didn't fight to conquer. They fought to end cruelty. Hours later, the battle was over. The Vraxis fleet was gone, reduced to silence and drifting metal. As the smoke cleared, the Terran ships remained still, hanging in the void like dark angels above a fallen world. Admiral Holt closed her eyes. "Status report. Victory complete," her officer replied. "0 human losses," she nodded slowly. "Transmit message to Earth Command. Operation Dawnstrike successful. Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than light. Every alien race watched the footage. They had mocked the humans. They had called them soft. Now they saw their warships blot out suns and erase armies within hours, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy fell silent. The kindness of humanity had ended. The era of mercy was over. Now began the age of justice. The Galactic Council had never been this quiet. The Great Chamber, usually filled with noise, politics, and arguments, now echoed only with the sound of fear. Hundreds of alien leaders sat frozen in their seats. The large holoscreen in the center of the room showed the same terrifying image, a Vraxis world burning, covered by the shadows of human warships. No one could speak. No one dared to. The footage had come directly from Vraxis survivors. Entire fleets destroyed, planets surrounded, human ships covering the sky until sunlight vanished. The same humans the galaxy had mocked as weak had become something no one could control. Finally, the Draven Chancellor broke the silence. His voice trembled. "This is impossible. Humanity was under observation for decades. We would have known if they built something like this." Across the table, the representative of the Trelzar collective hissed, You underestimate them. Humans build quietly. They smile while they plan. They were supposed to be harmless, shouted a counselor from the Shai Empire. We allowed them access to trade routes, education, even council membership. How did they do this under our eyes? The Vraxis warlord Korathul stood up. His scales were dull, his claws shaking. We attacked them first, he said bitterly. And now they have destroyed half my fleet. The council president turned to him. Then surrender. Ask for peace before they reach your homeworld. Korathul's voice cracked. It's too late. They are already in orbit, the room filled with gasps and cries. Impossible, someone shouted. They couldn't have moved that fast. But a live feed appeared on the central display. Human ships hovering over Vraxis Prime, massive and silent, their hulls glowing faint blue. The president whispered, "They're blocking out the sky." The word sent a cold wave through the entire chamber. Admiral Kira. Holt's voice then echoed across the transmission, calm, controlled. Every council member froze as they listened. This is Admiral Holt of the Terran Defense Fleet. The Vraxis Dominion has been neutralized. Their warships are gone. Their command centers are silent. Humanity does not seek conquest. We seek balance. The days of mocking our peace are over. Then the screen went black. Panic erupted. The humans are declaring dominance, yelled one delegate. They're sending a message to all of us, shouted another. Within seconds, the council chamber became chaos. Some demanded the formation of a united fleet to resist humanity. Others screamed for surrender before it was too late. One alien general pounded the table. We must strike now. If we wait, their fleet will spread. But the Trelzar ambassador whispered the truth that silenced them all. Strike with what? Half our fleets are already pulling back in fear. None of our ships can match their energy weapons. They fought the Dominion's entire armada and didn't lose a single ship. The words hit like thunder. No one argued. On a separate communication line, a group of smaller races, those once protected by human aid, contacted the council. Humans saved our colonies when no one else did, one leader said. They gave us food and medicine when the Vraxis raided us. Maybe we were wrong to mock them, others nodded quietly. The truth was hard to deny. For centuries, humanity had given help, never asking for anything in return. They had been laughed at, pushed aside, used as tools of mercy. Now the same mercy had become judgment. The council president finally stood. His face looked pale and defeated. Send a message to Earth, he said slowly. We will open peace talks. We must end this before they decide the galaxy no longer deserves peace. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, our long-range channels are jammed. The Terran fleet has cut all outer transmissions. We cannot reach them. The president's voice cracked. Then we wait. Far above a council world, satellites detected movement, dark shapes passing through the void. At first they thought it was debris. But as the ships drew closer, the sensors began to fail one after another. Then came the message. Short, simple. Do not interfere. The transmission ended. And just like that, the skies above the council's capital turned grey as massive shadows appeared. Human ships entering high orbit, silent as ghosts. The same message played again, across every planet. Every frequency. We warned you once. You called our kindness weakness. Now you will learn what it means to awaken the kind. In that moment, every alien leader understood the same truth. Humanity was no longer a minor voice in the council. They were the storm above it. Fear spread faster than any weapon. Some worlds shut down their trade routes. Others powered down their fleets. The galaxy had fallen into silence. Waiting, watching, praying the humans would stop, but humanity was not finished yet. They had seen too much, lost too many. Mercy would not return easily. The skies had already darkened, and soon the judgment would begin. The Galactic Council chamber was silent again, but this silence was different. It was not shock, it was fear. Outside the giant windows, the skies above the capital world were covered in shadows, the Terran fleet. Hundreds of human warships hovered in perfect formation, engines humming like distant thunder every few seconds. Lightning from their plasma cores flashed across the clouds. It was a sight the galaxy would never forget. Inside the chamber, the council president stood trembling before a giant holographic screen. The image of Admiral Kira Holt appeared, calm, cold, and still. Her uniform was spotless, her eyes unblinking. "Admiral Holt," the president began, voice shaking, "we seek peace. The Vraxis Dominion is defeated. We understand your strength. Please end your occupation." The admiral's voice was steady, emotionless. "Occupation? We are not occupying your worlds. We are ensuring the safety of our kind." The president swallowed. "You have surrounded half the core systems. Trade has stopped. Your fleets fired first," Holt interrupted. "You watched as humans were slaughtered, and you called it justice. We will not forget that." Her words hit like a hammer. The room went cold. A delegate from the Shea Empire tried to speak. "We were told humans had no army, no navy. You deceived the council." Holt turned her gaze toward him. "We built in silence because your kind laughed when we tried to join your defense pact. You told us peace needed no weapons, so we prepared for the day when your laughter turned to gunfire." The alien lowered his head. No one spoke again. From the far end of the chamber, the Draven Chancellor stood. His scales shimmered nervously. "Admiral, please. There are innocent civilians. Entire colonies will starve if trade remains blocked. You have made your point. Show mercy." The humans on the screen did not respond immediately. Then Admiral Holt spoke, softly but with terrible weight. "Mercy? We offered mercy for centuries. We offered friendship. We offered peace. You answered with fire. Tell me, Chancellor, did your people show mercy when they bombed New Kyoto? When they burned our aid convoys? When they left children dying in orbit because we refused to fight?" Her voice was low, but it carried like thunder. The chamber fell silent once more. After a long pause, the council president said, almost whispering, "Admiral Holt, what do you want?" Holt's expression didn't change. "We want truth," she said. "We want you to tell your people what humanity really is. Not weak, not harmless, but a species that endures, that builds, that protects, even when the galaxy spits on them." The president nodded quickly. Yes, we will." But Holt's voice grew colder. "Words are not enough. Every world that raised weapons against us will surrender its fleets. Every world that mocked our peace will kneel before it." Gasps filled the room. "Admiral, that's tyranny," shouted a counselor. "No," Holt said quietly. "That's balance." Outside, the fleet began to move. Massive ships shifted positions like dark waves across the sky. The Council's defense satellites tried to lock on, but every system went offline within seconds. "We're being jammed," cried a technician. "All targeting systems disabled." Admiral Holt's voice echoed again. "Do not resist. Your systems will remain disabled until we finish what you started," the president shouted into the comms. "Please, you're punishing billions who had nothing to do with this war." Holt stared directly into the camera. "Then perhaps they should choose better leaders." The screen flickered and cut out. All across the council's world, people watched in terror as human drones descended through the clouds. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They simply scanned military facilities and deactivated them with silent pulses of blue light. Cities froze in fear. Fleets went dark. Every empire watched as humanity shut down the galaxy's strongest systems without firing a single shot. In the shadows of the council chamber, a few smaller races, those once helped by humans, spoke quietly among themselves. One said, "They're not destroying us. They're stopping the ones who would." Another whispered, "This is not vengeance, this is justice." But the Vraxis warlord, now stripped of his rank, growled in despair. "No, this is domination. Humanity will rule us all." Then a voice returned through the comms, Admiral Holt again. "We do not rule," she said. "We remember. When the galaxy learns to respect peace, we will leave. Until then, the skies are ours." Her image vanished, and outside, the human fleet slowly turned, stretching across the horizon like a curtain of steel. The stars disappeared behind their hulls, and in that moment every alien world understood one truth. Humanity's kindness had limits, and they had crossed them. The council president sat back in his chair, eyes wide with despair. "We asked for mercy," he whispered. "But they gave us judgment. Across the stars, a new silence had fallen. No wars, no raids, no fleets dared to move. The galaxy had never been so quiet, and so afraid. In every system where human ships hovered, the skies were filled with dark silhouettes of steel. Terran destroyers, carriers and dreadnoughts formed rings around the core worlds. Their engines glowed faint blue, silent and cold, like eyes that never blinked. Wherever those ships appeared, conflict vanished. On the trade world of Orvan, smugglers abandoned their ports. On Brilora, pirates surrendered without a fight. And on Vraxis Prime, the world that had once mocked humans, banners of surrender covered entire cities. The human flag, a simple blue and white emblem of unity, was raised on alien soil for the first time. But humanity did not occupy. They did not enslave. They watched. Terran drones patrolled the skies, scanning for weapons and war plans. And if any species tried to rebuild its fleet, those drones would appear within hours, silent, unstoppable, and precise. In the Council's capital, chaos turned into obedience. The Council President now spoke carefully, choosing every word like it might decide the galaxy's fate. He stood before a live broadcast, his image sent to trillions. "We have entered a new age," he said slowly. "Humanity has shown us what true strength is, not in conquest but in control. The skies belong to Earth, and under their watch, we may finally know peace." The crowd listening across the stars didn't cheer. They just listened, afraid to speak. Far above, inside her flagship TDS Valkyrie, Admiral Kira Holt looked out at the stars. Her officers waited behind her, silent as new reports came in. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Sato, "the Draven fleets have disarmed completely. The Trelzar colonies are asking for trade permission under Terran supervision." Holt nodded slightly. "And the Vraxis? Rebuilding, under strict observation, no weapons allowed." "Good," she said quietly. "Let them build homes instead of ships." Then she turned toward the main display. It showed the galactic map, hundreds of human fleet symbols orbiting different systems. One after another, the lights changed color, from red to blue. Each light represented a world that had accepted peace under Terran oversight. Across space, many species began to change their tone. In schools, alien children learned Terran history, the wars, the unity, the rebuilding after centuries of loss. In markets, human technology became the new standard. Starships ran on Terran engines, communications used Terran frequencies, and even medicine followed human protocols. The galaxy didn't realize it yet, but it was slowly becoming part of the Terran system. On one remote world, a small group of alien officers watched the sky as human ships passed overhead. "They said humans were weak," one whispered. "They were," said another, "until we made them strong." The youngest officer looked up at the ships, glowing above the clouds. "Do you think they'll ever leave?" The older one shook his head. "Not until they believe we deserve peace." Meanwhile, back on Earth, people watched the same broadcasts. From the great cities to the orbital rings, humans saw what they had become. For the first time in history, they were no longer the underdogs, no longer laughed at, no longer ignored. Now the entire galaxy looked to Earth for leadership, for order, for mercy. Yet deep inside, many humans felt uneasy. They had fought to survive, not to rule. And though the stars now bent to their will, the question grew louder each day. Were they becoming the very thing they once hated? Inside the Valkyrie, Admiral Holt stood with her second-in-command, Commander Ellis. "Ma'am," he said softly, "the Council is requesting you attend a peace ceremony. They want to sign the Terran Accord officially." Holt looked distant. "Peace by fear," she muttered. "That's not the peace we wanted." Ellis hesitated. "Then what do we do?" Holt turned toward the stars. "We wait," she said. "The galaxy needs to understand peace, not obedience." She paused, her reflection shining in the glass. "And when they finally do, we'll leave." On the Council's main world, alien citizens watched human ships drift across the sky, blocking out the stars. Children pointed upward. Adults bowed their heads. Every race that had once mocked humanity now lived under their watchful gaze. But for the first time, pirates disappeared. Slavery ended. Raids stopped. Trade flowed again, this time fairly. No one wanted to test the Terrans, and so a strange balance filled the galaxy. Peace, yes, but peace built on fear. Everyone called it the era of Terran Watch, when humanity's fleets hung above the stars like silent gods, guarding a galaxy that finally knew what kindness could do, and what happened when that kindness ran out. At the end of each day, the ships dimmed their engines, and for a brief moment, the stars shone again through their shadows. But every world knew the truth. The skies no longer belonged to the galaxy. The skies belonged to Earth.